Is it?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Board of Zoning Appeals this evening, July 9th at 6:30. Mr. Powers, can we have roll call?
Yes. Mr. Harriman? Here. Mr. Robbins? Here. Ms. McCoy?
Here.
Mr. Hogan?
Present.
Ms. Deidre.
Okay, and I'd like to move on to approval of minutes of the May 14th, 2025 meeting.
Motion to approve our BCA meeting minutes from May 14th, 2025.
Second?
Ms. McCoy?
Yes.
Mr. Harriman?
Yes.
Mr. Robbins?
Abstain.
Mr. Hogan?
Yes.
And on to communication. Mr. Hutchinson, do you have anything from P&Z?
Just welcome back, everyone. Had a nice month off, so get back into it. Do we have anything for next week, next month already?
I've not received any applications for next month, but there are a couple, or there is one application for a fence that could lead to another fence variance, so.
So be on the lookout for next month.
And I would like to open this meeting to public comment, and that's for any comments unrelated to the applicants on the agenda this evening. No. Motion to close the public comment?
Second.
Just close it. We're good.
Okay.
And then we will go, do we have any old business? We do not have any old business to discuss this evening. And then we can just move right along to new business. The first part of our new business is public hearing for variance 25-5. The variance 25-5 from section 1183.05 accessory uses and structures, and this is related to 157 Church Street, applicant Lisa Miller.
Yeah, do we want to just open and close the public hearing, and then I'll go with my explanation?
Yep.
Okay. All right, I'll just move on then.
We do have to close it.
Okay.
So you just want to open the public comments and then if no one wants to
I
come
did not open them, did
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and open.
I would like to
them.
open, I thought I did, but open public comment? For the public hearing, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, it's okay.
Yeah, for the public hearing for variance 25-5. I would like to open for that public hearing. And then,
And so this is where if you guys have anything you'd like to say, this is where you.
Well, they can
No.
always come.
Yeah, this will just be if you have any comments. If not, they'll ask you questions during your thing.
They're 25 flat and 25 6.
All right. No.
You got something?
This. If you guys
we'll
have
have a
anything
chance
to
to
say.
say something.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this is more for people if someone was, a neighboring property was coming in to speak
Yeah.
for or against
Yeah.
it, so.
Perfect.
So you can close it.
Do I have a motion to close the public hearing for variance 25-5?
Yep.
Yeah, just you
close
can
it.
do it.
I can do that, I can close
Yep.
it, okay.
You have executive power.
Alright, so variance 25-5, this variance from section 1183.05, accessory uses and structures. And yes, this is for 157 Church Street, and the applicant is Ms. Lisa Miller. So this property is located in the RS3 Old Town Residential District, kind of in the older part of town. Let's see here. The applicant is requesting a 24 by 24 detached accessory garage that's a total of 576 square feet. In our current zoning code, we have a stipulation that any detached accessory structure can only be up to 25% of the gross floor area of the main dwelling. So in other words, you take the total gross floor area of the main dwelling divided by 4, and that's your maximum size you're allowed for an accessory structure. So in this case, I got a lot of these estimates and numbers from the Madison County Auditor's site. So the total finished living area in the home is 1,176 square feet. There is an attached garage to the east side of the property, attached to the main home. That's about 396 square feet, and then also a covered porch that's about 88 square feet. So totaling all that up, and then taking 25% of that, the maximum that they would be allowed to build is a 415 square foot garage or detached structure. So they're requesting a little bit more than that, 161 square feet in order to get to that 24 by 24 size. And then really that's the extent of the variance request. From staff's recommendation, our point of view is it's not really excessive in nature, and we don't believe this is going to have any negative impacts on the surrounding residential properties. So we do recommend approval of this application. And of course, once or if this variance were to be approved, then we would go on for a zoning permit and then building permits through West Jefferson. And at that time, we would confirm and make sure that all the appropriate setbacks within that district are met for that garage. I'll zoom in here so you guys see.
Can we, would the applicant be able to say anything if they want to?
Oh, yeah, you can ask questions, yep.
This is probably better for you, Colin and Derek. Where did that 25% come from?
It's kind of standard throughout the zoning world, is that 25. I've seen, much as I've ever seen is probably about 35%, but it's just, primary structure is always going to be your largest structure.
Right.
And probably in this older part of town where the lots are generally smaller, 25% is about appropriate for that size.
Okay. And is that the general desire there being to keep any secondary dwellings from being disproportionately large or taking away
no,
the
I mean,
aesthetic?
Really, 161 square feet sounds like that, but visually, you
like a 10 by 10.
probably never notice that difference. That's why it's not. Now, if someone was wanting to double that size, then we would probably have a little more conversation about that. But just 161 square feet bigger than what it's permitted now, it's really not that. Aesthetically, wouldn't notice a difference.
Okay.
And we will be removing the existing shed, so.
Yes, that is true. There's a
you know,
tiny
Okay.
shed.
And that's a 10 by 10, so.
Is the idea to replace the shed like where it is now, to put the detached garage there?
So the shed is kind of down here,
Yeah,
Bottom
within
right.
Yeah.
and
the restricted offsets, we have to be 5 feet, 5 feet, and 20 feet from the street, so in that same area.
Kind of determines where you can put it.
Pardon me?
Does that kind of determine where you can put it then? Like with the offsets, are you just putting it kind of where you can then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, you can see here, so this is their proposed site plan, and 5 feet from the east property line. Technically, their property line goes kind of beyond that creek that runs through the area. So it'll for sure meet that setback here, and then a minimum of 20 foot is required off of Church Street.
This is the odd shape of our lot. I mean, ideally, we would have loved to have purchased the lot behind us and build onto our existing one car, but we don't have a backyard. We just have a side yard, or the lower yard is what we call it.
Lower yard.
The lower yard.
Yeah, there's a tiny creek that runs right through here.
Yep.
And that bridge.
Any other questions from the board? I think we can go on and do the deliberations for variance 25-5. Let's start with ordinance 1138.05C3A. That said variance will not be contrary to public interest.
I don't think it is. Nobody's here to speak against it. So,
I would agree.
and we're going through, it's like a list of, I think, 6 different items and
Yeah.
like yes, no. So just because something, we would say yes or no to something doesn't mean it's the approval or denial of it, so.
Okay. 1138.05C3B, that said variance is justified due to special conditions. The variance is justified due to the fact that it's
Well,
161 square feet larger?
it's not excessive, and let's pretend they had more side yard. If they just wanted to turn their one car garage into a car garage, would they even need to do this?
Saying if they were just to do an addition onto their home,
Right, yeah.
so at that point now, all we would be checking for is making sure that it's not exceeding the maximum lot
lot.
coverage
Okay.
for that district.
So the issue is that it's detached, and that's why it's running into this, okay. So I would think that would also kind of apply, like they could have, built onto their garage if they had the room, if they don't.
And detached structures are permitted. You're actually permitted 2 detached structures on each property, so they're still staying within what's permitted.
So yes. We'll go with yes on that one.
Yeah, they're restricted by if not for the lot structure, they could just do this without involving us at all, so I would say yes.
Moving on, 1138.05C3C, that the literal enforcement of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties. The factors to be considered and weighed in determining whether practical difficulties have been encountered shall include but not be limited to the following. So 1138.05C3C1, whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without a variance.
For sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I would agree. 1138.05C3C2, whether the variance is substantial.
As for staff recommendation, not substantial.
No.
Do not feel like it's substantial. 1138.05C3C3, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance.
I would say not, and looking at kind of overhead shots and driving through that area, there's other properties that have similar structures that are, detached or other larger outbuildings.
That and along the fence line, it's kind of like a line of trees that's kind of wooded. I think visually there's almost no impact, especially from the Jackson Street side. So I don't think there's any detriment.
I would agree. Whether the 1138.05C3C4, whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services. Example like water, sewer, and garbage.
Would not be garbage, but I guess I don't know if you know where the water line or sewer stuff would run, that would be the only.
I do know where the water line is, and it's in the upper yard.
So,
In fact, there's a water leak on our street, so they have the lines actually marked,
okay.
so there's nothing in the lower yard.
So I don't think
I
that
don't
there's
think
anything
so.
that would
No.
affect the governmental services. 1138.05C3C5, whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of zoning restrictions. Of the zoning restriction.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably.
No. Learn as you go.
Yeah.
Yes. I do not think that they were aware. 1138.05C3C6, whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than a variance.
I mean, I'd go smaller, not need the variance, but that'd be about it with this, but.
So, I mean, yeah, they could go smaller, but not the desire.
I feel it'll help keep the property neat and tidy and put all your things in there. So. 1138.05C3D, that the spirit of the zoning ordinance will be observed and substantial justice done if the area variance is granted.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that.
Yes, I agree. 1138.05C3E, that the variance is based on need, not convenience or profit.
issue thing. I think this is, yeah, more need than
Yeah,
either of the
Yeah.
two.
do not believe profit or this. So, okay. Any other questions?
Questions?
Any other comments or questions? So I would just, looking for a motion to, approve.
Well, we had
So
to,
we have to
we had
go
to do the
through
minutes. We have to-
Oh,
do
we
the-
have to do the
That's
minutes.
too long.
Taking a month
Minutes
off.
of-
I know, see, look at that.
So I apologize for,
So this is the fun part, is they're typing it up and they'll get put on the screen and we get to judge everybody's spell check abilities and their accuracy, their note taking.
I'm mostly get nervous about using correct last names.
You've only messed mine up a couple times.
Yeah.
Hey, if Aaron were here, you'd have a harder
Aaron's
time.
last name I copy and paste.
Yeah, yeah. Smart.
when you talk about like 25%, is there something that there's a height issue in that too? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, there's regulations that, it's treated just like anything else. It has setbacks and height limits and all that. But I know what's being proposed, everything, it meets everything else is fine.
Basically, this zoning district, any accessory structure just can't be taller than the main structure on the property. So,
If they were to have issues with that, they'd run into that during the building permit. Like, that's not even us necessarily.
well, if they were to submit, if they were to start with the zoning permit,
Yeah.
we would catch that first.
Okay.
And then we would, backtrack and say, oh, well, you would need a variance to,
Go above the height limit. Okay. So this is purely just size. Like, can they?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
yeah, typically the process is zoning permit, building permit, and then variance first, if that's needed, so.
If it wasn't for zoning, building building department could approve a 7-story garage there if they wanted to.
That's how I can get in that parking garage downtown.
Yeah. Or you just live out in the country like me, because my accessory structures, I want them bigger than my house, so mine's almost, I need it reversed. I need the accessory structure to, or the primary structure to be 25% of the accessory structure.
That's
I live in my accessory structures.
this is more a news question, but so if you go out past the new elementary across from like is not Darby Fields, so you go out near past new elementary, recent development there, maybe it's called Darby Fields. There's a parking lot that's paved right across from that. What's that about?
That's a new park.
New park.
for the village.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
When did that get approved?
It's been going
Probably a
on
while ago.
about a year.
That was, yeah, the mayor worked really hard, got, Mr. Smucker donated the property to the
Nice.
village, so pretty much that whole, it's up to a point, but pretty much like that whole side of the road is,
Mhm.
gonna be, parkland.
Cool.
So
Okay.
nothing, probably just more of like more walking paths and
Yeah.
stuff go down.
Yeah, it'd be all natural. Probably,
Yeah.
Not enough room for like
yeah,
baseball.
the parking lot
diamonds.
would be like the only hard surface. There may eventually, maybe be like a little gazebo or a little shelter, maybe some picnic tables, but they're gonna have a fishing locker out there where you could, fishing equipment, so you could go out there and get poles and go fish and garden.
Nice. Okay.
Right,
Do we think it's important that Part B mention that it also follows staff's recommendation, or is that probably not terribly relevant?
I don't think it's that relevant, I mean, because it's in the record, and it'd be in the record anyway.
No, true.
corrected and you need a new footer with plaincity.gov instead of .com.
Yes. I gotta go back through and find all those, yep.
So everybody like what they read up there?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, motion to approve variance, 25
We're gonna do the findings of
Oh,
facts
sure,
first.
Findings of facts.
Sorry, I didn't make one.
Here's my findings of facts.
Well, it's what we, so you're just approving, make a motion to approve the findings of facts.
Motion to approve the findings of fact
Thank you,
as
Mr.
presented.
Harriman.
Second.
I appreciate that.
Mr. Hogan,
Yes.
Mr. Robbins,
Yes.
Ms. McCoy,
Yes.
Mr. Harriman.
Yes.
Now you can,
Now I can do that.
now you can do that.
Great. Okay, perfect. Motion to approve variance 25-5.
Second.
Ms. McCoy,
Yes.
Mr. Hogan,
Yes.
Mr. Robbins,
Yes.
Mr. Harriman.
Yes.
I'll send
Well
out
done.
an email tomorrow, next steps and where to go from here.
Okay,
Good. Thank you.
thank you.
Next public hearing.
You guys want to stay? You can stay. If you want to go, you can go.
No, first timers.
Oh, yeah.
We release you.
I mean, unless you want to join for the public comment for the.
Thank you again.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay, moving on. I'd like to open the public hearing for variance 25-6. Okay, and nothing there. So I would like to close the public hearing for variance 25-6.
Second, if you need a second.
No.
Okay. So this is variance 25-6, variance from section 1183.12. It's fences, location 1767 Slippery Rail Drive, applicant Jeannie Tolati Kirkpatrick.
Yep, so this is another fence variance for out in our station. The applicant requesting a 4-foot tall black aluminum fence to extend 12 feet coming off the side of the home towards Speedliner Drive here to the west. They have frontage on both Slippery Rail and Speedliner, so they are a corner lot. We've seen a lot of these in the past. So typically, any property that's on a corner lot will have 2 front yards. This home in particular has a 26-foot setback coming off of Slippery Rail. Has a 26-foot setback off the Speedliner here. The majority of the side of the home has a 30-foot setback coming off of Speedliner. I'm not sure if you guys can see that. But this is the proposed site plan. They're wanting to come out 12 feet from the side of this house towards Speedliner. And that would be the variance to requesting, and it is a black aluminum fence, so there is some visibility that is provided, and to be kind of more consistent in line with what the board has approved in the past.
Quick, there's technically two, it's one variance request, but it's two variances in one here. So if you notice on that fence, it not only is it going 12 feet out, but it's also coming toward the front of the house too. So it's where it's proposed now so it has two different sections there that are proposed that would be in violation. So when we're talking about the variance for this, the variance request is actually for two variances. It's 12 feet from one side, and then whatever that distance is from that rear corner up toward Slippery Rail Drive, that section there. Because per our code, it's got to stay to the rear corner of that house, the fence says. So it's going out both ways. It's coming forward and extending out. So it's basically
Yeah.
two.
So looking
requests.
at if my math's correct, obviously 12 feet out, and then it looks like about 20 feet up, just looks, because is it 25, sorry, I was just trying to zoom in, 25 feet to the rear for the
Yeah, so.
rear, so if it's 45 feet,
About 20 feet.
about 20 feet up.
Up towards the rear rail, yeah. Yes, and so the way our code reads is that we have to treat, this as the build line. And so anything beyond that is technically, part of the front yard. And it would have to, our current code would have to stay at 3 feet in height and be a certain level of transparency. But they're requesting 4 feet, so, and to come somewhat up the building.
So if this was a 3-foot fence, this would not require a variance.
Okay, which is to say that it meets transparency and setback requirements.
Yeah, I mean, they could go, if it was 3 foot, they could go further. I mean, they could go wrap around the house out front if they wanted to, if it was 3 foot. But this is 4 foot. So similar to recent ones in the past we've had a couple 4-footers, we've had some 6-footers too. So the variance though is for the height and how far it's gonna come across. So like we'd mentioned in the last one, if we grant a variance for a fence to go there, just because it's 4-foot transparency now, 10 years from now, someone put up a 6-foot fence there because that's what the variance permitted the fence to go there. So we just gotta keep that in mind when we're granting or looking at granting variances for fences. But this is not uncommon to the ones we've recently seen, so
Yeah.
and they're all in Darby Station. You're only gonna really see these primarily in these newer neighborhoods. We are going through a code change that's coming up specifically for these to try and cut back on our variances. It's going to be, likely it's gonna be 15 feet from the right of way. So the section going toward Slippery or Speedliner Drive, per the new code that is not in effect, so we can't enforce that now, but that section would be permitted at that location. But it still would not be located though forward that front corner toward the Slippery Rail.
Essentially, it would have to tie into that back
Yep.
rear corner.
And so far, all the variances that we've granted in Darby Station this year and last, we've gone maximum 10 foot from the rear corner of the house over, and we haven't, so far to date, we have not granted any variances forward that rear corner of the house.
And then, so this one would be inside of that or at the 10, right? Just looking.
It's actually 8 foot from the build line, because they said the build line would be where we have the bump out. So I'm going 8 feet from that build line.
Yeah, we don't go off the build line, it's off the rear corner of the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also note that speed line is a dead end. It doesn't go anywhere. That's a dead end right there. It goes into a field.
Today it does.
Well, isn't.
She knows something we don't know.
There is a 30 foot easement across the back, which we were told when we bought the property, that they could not build on. That's what we were told because of the power.
Well, it's not related to this, but so where that orange outline is, that is is all that, am I right there? Right?
Yeah, so this
Yeah.
reserve.
Yeah, that's a reserve, that will be, that part right there will be reserved, but that stub is there specifically it's required by code to connect to a new neighborhood, or whatever's built back there. So when that is developed, a road will be connected to that. Yeah, so now, honestly, unless they buy the reserve, nothing will be built in that reserve, but past that reserve, there could be buildings there.
We hope the odors hold out.
And we have to make the decisions upon the code now, not on the future code
That's
that we were talking about.
And so you were advising a conditional grant of keeping to like that 4-foot max? You're trying to be like cognizant?
No, so I mean, no, I mean, so we've approved 6 foot too, so 6 foot would be fine. But it's still gonna be that, anything in the front yard minus that, this corner lot here, moving forward in the new code, would be able to go 15 feet from the sidewalk. Not toward the front, but toward the side, they would be able to go 15 foot in the new code. Today's code, it does not. If they decided to wait
That's what I was gonna
a month and a half, 2 months, then they wouldn't need that part of the variance. But to come forward though, regardless, they're gonna need that to wanna come forward, that rear corner of the house, that will need.
So could the applicant like reapply for a variance then when the code changes?
I mean, if they chose to.
If they
Yeah,
chose
I mean, at this point, they're here for a variance, that's gonna be required regardless. So, I mean, if I was applying, I would go ahead and apply for both those variances now, regardless of the new code, just because one of those is gonna be needed regardless.
Gotcha.
So this is more of a technicality structure, or we just have variance 25-6, but they're doing for 2. Is it 2 for 1 in this one?
Well, it's still one request, because it's one
One
project,
project,
it's one
okay.
offense, but yeah. But let's just say, if this was to be granted, it would be, the verbiage would have to indicate both directions.
Okay.
And that distance. Like that, so far though, we have not come forward, we have not permitted any of those.
I will say our HOA does not allow anything over 4 feet. So we could never put a 6-foot fence in because HOA limits that.
Yeah.
HOA will only live, and there's a limit of how far you can come up from the back of your property.
Does the board have any other questions?
Yes, is there something in that space? Is that how you arrived at where you wanted the fence to end?
It's our yard.
No, there's
No,
nothing there, it's just,
It's just the end of that bump out there? Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
So where it comes down, in reference to that 12 feet, was there, I was just curious if there was something in place there that you were trying to enclose in the fence?
Yeah, we were just trying to, we moved from a house that had a lot of yard, we have a dog, and we were just trying to have backyard. We have a grandson, we're trying to have space for him. Yeah, when we bought the house, we didn't know about all the zoning. Our kids built a house 2 years ago, had no problem putting a fence on their corner lot. Our neighbor, we've talked to neighbors, they all have fences same as this on their corner lots. The other side is gonna be my new neighbor is putting in a wood fence, so we're waiting, we can't do anything until he gets his in, and he doesn't install yet. So, we were tying into his, cause he wants his solid for his dogs. No, we were just trying to get more space.
No more questions for me.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so. We can go through the deliberations of, variance 25-6. According to our zoning codes, 113805C3A. That said area variance will not be contrary to public interest.
once again would say no due to lack of public comment and the fact that we've granted like 4 of these things now. Very excited for this new fencing code to be passed.
113805 C3B, that said variance is justified due to special conditions.
I mean, the special conditions of being on the corner lot,
On the corner lot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know, having no,
Getting hit with the old
Yeah.
double front yard.
yeah, no side yard, yeah.
So I believe it is justified. 113805 C3C, that the literal enforcement of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties. The factors to be considered and weighed in determining whether practical difficulties have been encountered shall include, but not limited to, the following. 113805 C3C1, whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance.
Yes. Of course.
Yes.
That'll make it a pretty easy one.
113805 C3C2, whether the variance is substantial.
Very much in line with previous requests, aside from the rear corner piece. So that is semi-unique, but no.
Wouldn't it be, it would be justified being substantial due to the
half of it would be, yeah.
half of it,
Yeah.
so half of it is substantial, okay. 113805 C3C3, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance.
I think it'll be very in line with the character of the neighborhood and will even allegedly help the neighbor set up his fence too, so.
Yeah.
A little bit of
Potentially,
a combo
potentially
action there.
benefit.
113805 C3C4, whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services, water, sewer, garbage, etc.
I don't believe it would.
Planning on hitting any
No.
water lines?
There's a gate there, so there's access if they need it in the backyard, but gate on both sides for that reason.
Water, sewer, trash,
Yeah, say, the only thing I mean, not knowing would be just any of the electrical easements if they're at the rear of the property line, but,
Yeah, they're
you
in the
know,
rear,
it's-
and they'll be marked.
yeah.
They would be outside our.
They'd be outside, yeah,
They're actually neighbors, actually right now we're fighting because it's been underwater since May.
Well,
Okay, so 113805 C3C5, whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of the zoning restrictions.
I don't believe so.
I don't believe so either.
They're not told that till. We started talking to fence companies and calling.
Okay, 113805 C3C6, whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than a variance.
talked about this earlier, they could wait and not have any issues with the new code, but either way, they're gonna have to come to us for that rear extension, so, no, they had to do a variance if they wanted this.
Yeah, there will be at least one variance, even with the new code.
That's what I heard.
So 113805 C3D, the spirit of the zoning ordinance will be observed and substantial justice done if the area variance is granted. So we could, grant, if we were to move forward and approve part of the variance, we could modify the other part of the variance with conditions.
You could, go ahead.
We would probably recommend, bringing that back in line with that rear corner, which has been consistent with what the board's done in the past, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, obviously, like we've said, we can't go based off of what the future code will be, but that is what the future code will be. So yeah, we would recommend 10 feet coming from that rear corner and staying in line with that rear corner. And similarly, in the future fence code proposed would allow them to have a fence that goes out with a 15-foot setback from that sidewalk. So, you know, they could go out a couple more feet later on. Not now, obviously, but we would want that. Or I guess, don't worry about that because that's speculation on future code. But yes, we would request that to be in line with that rear corner.
So just remind, this is just a proposed code. It still has to go through P and Z,
Yeah.
and it still has to go through council, so it could be changed.
Mm-hmm.
It could be changed from not approved.
Does anybody have any other questions on the board? Mr. Harriman?
Just at that rear corner that we're talking about on it, are there any, like utilities or anything that are attached there, meters or anything that, you know, that are right there at that corner spot of the house?
They're in the far corner where actually they're on my neighbor's property line on the other side.
Okay, so nothing's like, you know, the gas meters go, nothing's on that side of the house that's being attached to anything?
No.
Okay. Is the rear water spigot, where is that on this, for you to
Yeah,
get?
it's on that back rear corner. It would be inside the fence.
On the, sorry, what, on this side, rear,
The other side.
The other side.
over this
Yeah,
side,
there's one right back in that other wall.
this wall?
Yep.
Yeah, that's where the house is.
How far up with it?
Like right out the corner.
Like right in
Right
this-
there.
Right there?
Yep.
Okay.
So 113805C3E, that the variance is based on need, not convenience or profit.
I think it was pretty clear. This is
I
based
think
on
it's very
convenience.
need.
Need.
So when Ashley does the findings of facts, do we now recommend maybe modifications, or is that after the findings of facts?
Yeah, you prove your findings of facts. That's just verifying that your conversation, your discussion was correct. And then you could discuss at that time.
Just roughly visualize this. Which one's speed? Like the 10 feet. My spatial reasoning is garbage.
Oh, like where it's sitting at?
Like this, like what would, if so, what is this requirement changing about their design? This no greater than 10 feet from the rear corner of the home, facing
So-
Spirit Liner.
So yeah, that would be here.
So
That is
that's
right.
true. So basically, we're bringing it back 2 feet, is what we want,
No,
just to be like internally consistent with prior decisions.
because this is 12 feet here.
Well, no, it says
I'm sorry.
25.
I'm sorry.
Right, that's 12
Yeah,
feet.
12 feet there,
Yeah,
but this is
it's
25,
12.
so it's 13.
Yeah.
But that's why I can't tell. Right there. So there's the sidewalk. Which is 25, this, so there's an insert here. So this, the math, I can't math. I don't know what this distance is.
Was this like 4? I think it's 4.
So that would be 20. Take
That's,
that,
what that is, apparently.
26 or
Yeah.
25.
6.
So
that
that'd
is
be 30
6.
feet.
Right.
Yeah. So that would give you
18 feet from that.
18 feet.
It says, I'm not getting, so what is this 10 foot requiring?
10 feet in from this side. So it would be, yeah, go wide.
Okay, so that doesn't impact anything right now?
Feet.
Okay, cool. That makes a lot more sense to me.
All right, you guys ready? You want me to specify here, that being the 4 foot tall
Yes.
requirement?
Yeah. Should we add the part about the rear lot being considered substantial?
What's that?
So like how there were the 2 halves of the request, like the 4 foot, that's pretty routine, that comes through here every other month, but the other thing that would require a variance that is substantial and that we had not seen that before.
Saying coming 20 feet
Yeah.
close, okay.
I remember us saying that, so.
You saying that is or is not substantial?
The conversation earlier was is substantial just because we haven't seen it before, so it's, and that it's new. It's new and exciting.
I understand.
Well, we've had that request twice
We've got that, yeah.
to come forward, and we did not approve those.
That was on the last meeting. We had that.
That one in May. Okay.
One of our neighbors on Conductor just had one approved and had his, put in about 3 weeks ago where he forward and out, they did both, and he's a corner lot.
Yeah.
For a sub-rig rail and conductor, Adam,
I'm gonna guess it's one of the other ones we've approved.
But, I mean, we'll have to look into that, because he probably did not get a permit or didn't build it to how he was got it approved.
Does the board have any, comment on the findings of facts? Anything need to add, change, or?
For, I think it's B, the D there, just the, acquiring the rear, the meters, but, I guess, yeah, the hose there on the other side of the house, it's,
Is there anything you want me to add there?
I guess, you wanna specify that it's facing the, what, is it the slippery rail, just on the side of the house, that's on the slippery rail side? Would that be the,
Yeah.
sorry, just wanna make sure I'm accurate with the streets there.
Speed liner side?
It's, is it speed liner? Okay. I know it's a train name.
Yeah.
Interesting. A lot.
Was it hose connection or? Was that what, was there a hose connection on? both
Yeah,
sides?
I guess, yeah.
little
Spigot
shut
or.
out.
Any other comment or changes or additions? I'd like to request a motion to approve the findings of fact for variance 25-6.
Motion to approve the findings of fact.
Second.
Sorry, who was that?
Oh, a second.
That you? Yeah. Sure. Mr. Robbins,
Yes.
Mr. Harriman,
Yes.
Ms. McCoy,
Yes.
Mr. Hubble.
Yes.
So I would like to have a discussion with the board about talking about maybe some modifications for variance 25-6. I think that historically, when these have come through, we have granted the variance with some modifications. Does anybody have any comment on what that would look like?
Yeah, no, I think the last on Mays we had was, they're asking for basic extension up to the, going forward up the house. And I know we've been trying to be consistent with being right there at the, kind of the back of the house
Mhm.
area. I would know where a house, where the spigot for the hose and everything, would be for the backyard. I mean, I would say, since that would be primarily for the rear lot, making sure that that's inside of the fence line. So whatever that distance would be, I mean, I'd like to make sure,
That would be.
that would be
Mhm.
included in the back, but just trying to maintain consistency throughout. I think that's been one of the things we've been trying to do.
So would we happen to know, like, the distance where that hose connection would be, or according on this? Do you have any comment on, like, how we would figure that out?
We would have to know exactly, I mean,
It's a foot.
a foot.
It's a foot from the corner.
It's just a foot, okay,
Right there.
right there,
Yep.
okay.
So where would that leave us,
Just
11 feet?
watering sun the last 3 weeks, every day, all day.
So what would we do in that case, 11 feet?
What was that?
What would we do in that case to enclose it? The water connection?
So you, Mr. Herman, you were thinking that a modification would be to move that to just,
Like
Encompass.
if we're saying, if we're saying there, I don't wanna sit there and have a fence to block where the hose connection would be to get to the back. If
Yeah.
it's for the backyard, at least make sure that would be included inside of that fence line. So,
And then that, do you feel like that would be consistent to what we have?
I mean, I guess, being more watering lately, I'm more
Yeah.
keen to where that stuff's located.
Absolutely.
So I would say I have not been consistent with that on previous ones, just
Right.
in March, I wasn't thinking of where my hose is,
Mhm.
but knowing where all my hoses are right now, I'm very keenly aware of the location of them right now. So,
Mr. Robbins, have any comment on that?
No, not specifically. I was not at the May meeting.
Mr. Hogan?
Yeah, so the same question, right? So that's more so for you guys. Where would that leave us, I suppose, number-wise or measurement-wise? Would we have to approve a certain distance?
Yep.
So if they say a foot, would we have to, abide by that and say 11 feet instead of the 12?
Well, two different measurements. It'd be measurement coming up the side of the house.
Right.
And also
Coming out as well.
Rear
Okay.
corner.
Yeah, so far you're talking about coming forward, so
Right.
if you're considering for the spigot, if the spigot's a foot, I think a foot and a half is reasonable, if that's your goal is to enclose that, so a foot and a half
Okay.
from that rear corner, and I'm just doing this as a suggestion. It's your decision. And then you need to have discussion if 12 foot is what you're granting the variance for the other direction, or if you're going to modify that.
That's a good point as well. To your point, right, they need room to work inside of that area as well. Or access the water connection, right? So we can't say, okay, bring it up and then just have like a small space, Tough one.
mhm.
What do you think, Mr. Harriman? Any other thoughts on that?
So you're talking with the 12-foot
Yeah.
instead of what, the 10?
Yes,
Because the 10's been pretty consistent. where
it
we've
has
been.
been, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
For sake of consistency,
yeah, that's the thing, is like just being
with
consistent.
the other
with it.
neighbors that have come through with the same,
Yeah.
we have not had discussion about the
Right.
the hose connection, so bib or spout. Therefore, I feel like that, obviously negates our consistency with the other
Yeah.
applicants that have come through. So I would like to have discussion of like, would we then still grant it with modifications of considering the 10-foot and not consider the hose?
Yeah, I mean, so I said, the biggest thing I think we've all tried to be is just consistent with
Right.
everything.
And that's really what I feel like, to abide by our zoning code and then also be consistent with the residents of Plain City as we move forward with probably more of these. I would like to see that we stay consistent with how we grant them.
I think leaving it at 10 feet will be fine. You could, because so the 2 feet takes it to the house line.
Yeah,
You could just put a gate right there. That'd be fine.
yeah.
I wouldn't.
But I think, that was relevant discussion, and obviously since it's been 100 degrees and we're watering a lot more, so
Yeah.
I appreciate that discussion.
Yeah.
I would like to make a motion to grant the variance 25-6 with modifications that would be a 4-foot tall fence to extend no greater than 10 feet. Out of the spirit of consistency with other things that we have granted in the
And
past.
not writing ourselves into a hole in the future,
Mhm.
because I'm sure this will not be the last one.
So the 10 foot,
From
the rear of the corner of the home that ties the fence into the home's rear corner of the side facing, the speed line or drive.
You're saying 10 feet towards speed line, correct? Rather than 12 feet we're asking for, you're saying say 2 feet off of that to make it 10 feet, is that correct? You're not talking about coming with slip rail, is that accurate?
Yes.
On speed line,
Yes.
yes, that is accurate.
And is there is that the motion then?
Any other questions or comments? Are we?
I think that gets us to where we've been approving in the past.
That motion by McCoy. Do I have a second for that?
Second.
Mr. Hogan,
Yes.
Ms. McCoy,
Yes.
Mr. Harriman,
Yes.
Mr. Robbins.
Approved with modifications.
Any discussion items? We have none.
I do want to, since you guys weren't here before, we had talked about, I just wanted to bring all the members, make sure they know. We've got a scammer sending out fake invoices to applicants. Go ahead.
I felt like there was a shift there.
Oh,
Yeah, I think.
yeah, I would say, Mr. Powers, do you want to finish?
So someone's been sending out applicants fake invoices that are coming from, look like they're coming from the village with village staff's names on them. We had one last month for our P&Z applicant, and then both our applicants that we had here tonight received emails with invoices made out asking for a significant amount of money to be wired. I mean, so it's, luckily, all three cases, applicants called us, because they had already prepaid. They have, we passed the information on to our IT and PD, and they're gonna look at these things. I've been involved in these things before. Those emails can be traced 15 different times, and who knows where they'll go. Nothing may not come of it, but we are going to do a public notification. We are letting applicants here on out know that we do not send invoices like that. We definitely don't ask for wire transfers. Yeah, I mean, these variance requests are $300. They're prepaid. They don't get here unless they're paid.
They don't say on that. That's inaccurate.
Yeah.
That's inaccurate.
So,
It's very inconsistent.
okay. I've lost my train of thought now.
You guys are gonna switch to being
Oh, yeah.
paid in gift cards?
No. So to get to this point, you have to pay that variance request. So these invoices are asking for $4,000 to $5,000. And, so that's pretty suspicious. So I just want to bring that, in case you hear about that, or someone mentions to you that, that her fees went up to $5,000 for a variance request. It's a scam, so that's all.
That seems deep. Okay.
Any other? Motion to adjourn?
To adjourn.
You just press it.